one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is the February 25th Zoning Board meeting, called to order. We have the agenda as presented. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Before we, support. We have additions, deletions today. Yes. Yes, I'd like to add an action item to select the officers for the next year. We'll do it after the appeals. Need a support and a vote on that.
Support.
Okay.
Okay, then we have an addition of selecting officers as item number 6, and item number 7 is comments, and item number 8 then would be public comment, and then motion to adjourn would be 9. Okay, so we have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? A motion carries. The agenda is approved. Okay, we have the meeting minutes of October 22nd, 2019. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, so the minutes are of October 29th, 2019 are approved. Okay, so we're getting into the appeals. The first appeal is for a 20-001 for Mr. John A. Camilleri of 28640 Swan Island, has requested a public hearing before the Zoning Board of Appeals for a variance to expand a non-conforming structure located at 28640 Swan Island, lot number 10 and 11, Swan Island subdivision as recorded at Wayne County Records, Township of Grosse Ile, County of Wayne, Michigan. Okay, Mr. Camilleri, are you going to be presenting? Okay, what we're going to do, the procedure that we're going to go with here is we're going to have our Brian Borden come up and give us an overview. Then after he finishes the overview, then we're going to have you come back up and then give you your, so you can present to us why you think we should approve the variance, okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, Brian.
Beautiful. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Okay, first case this evening is for the property at 28640 Swan Island. It is a waterfront property on the west side of Swan Island Drive. And if you look at the aerial photo on the screen or in my review letter, it is this guy right here. It was nice that the aerial photo was taken before the pool in the street front yard was demoed, because it actually made it nice and easy for me to find it amongst the trees and amongst all the homes here. So that was actually helpful when it came to this. So the site and the neighborhood are zoned R1B, which is a single family designation. And the variance request before you this evening is to expand a non-conforming residence, and more specifically, one that does not fully meet the test for an allowable expansion of a non-conforming residence, in that the 90% rule is not met. And I'll have more on that later for those who aren't following me right now. Pertinent ordinance section 18.6A. And then background information, the existing residence is non-conforming, as I mentioned. It's due to its deficient combination of side yard setbacks. So within your single family zoning districts, you have not only minimum individual side yard setbacks, you also have a minimum combination of both side yards that you cannot go below. In this case, that is 18 feet, and this home as it sits today provides 14 and a half feet. So that is the non-conformity. On the screen now is the plan that was included in your agenda packets. Outlined in blue is the existing residence. Outlined in red is the proposed addition to the street front side of the building. It is for a new 2-car garage. It is a side-facing garage, and I think I had it pegged at, the garage itself is just over 700 square feet in terms of its square footage. And then these are the building elevation drawings. So if you look in the upper left, this is the view from the street front. So this would be the new structure in red. This is the existing structure in blue. And then if you look at the right side of the screen, this is the south side elevation. Not highlighted because it's wholly new. It doesn't depict new versus proposed because it's, or new versus existing because it's all new in this case. And then the last two, west side view, proposed, existing, and then the actual front garage side view, which again is a side load garage. So these are the door spaces with the existing home, the connection, and then the proposed garage, again in red. Board member Schweikert was kind enough again to do part of my job for me and visit the site and take some photographs. He did take more than this. I only used 2. Sorry, John. I don't think we pay you by the photo though, so if we did, I'll start including more. But they were very helpful. So the upper left is a view sort of the street front side of the home, if you will. This is the neighboring residence. This is the subject site residence. And if you can just make out, there are stakes in the ground that were representing where the proposed structure was going. You can see them a little more clearly in the picture to the right. So this is a view essentially from the house itself looking out towards the street. So again, you can see this is the street front yard here, and that's where this structure is proposed to be added on. In terms of the ordinance requirements, I mentioned at the outset 18.6A. That is a section of your ordinance that we use quite frequently. Sometimes it ends up in front of ZBA, sometimes it does not. When these standards are met, then you are allowed to expand a nonconforming residence with simply a building permit through administrative process. However, you do have to meet all 3 of these bullet points. That includes that the building is nonconforming on one side only, that the nonconforming side provides at least 90% of the required setback, and that the proposed expansion complies with current dimensional standards. With respect to the second bullet point, that does also apply to the combination of side yard setbacks as well. So in this case, the math results in an 80.5% of requirement standard. Therefore, the 90% rule is not met. That's why the petitioner is in front of you. Had they met that, had they provided the 90% minimum per ordinance, this would strictly have been an administrative process, and we wouldn't be here this evening. So that's why we are here. That is the single variance that is needed for this project, the single variance that has been requested by the petitioner to expand a nonconforming residence that does not fully comply with the standards of 18.6A. The right-hand side of the screen are your review criteria. We go over these every time, but I do like to keep them in the presentation just to make sure we've got the full basis for your decision-making this evening. So I can always go back to this if we need to. They are also all detailed in my review letter. So the brief summary of my review letter is that no expansion of this residence is allowed without at least one variance. You may view that as unnecessarily burdensome. As far as alternatives go, under the substantial justice test, I don't personally see a reasonable alternative because the reason that they're here is the existing condition of the residence. As I think I noted in my review letter, the alternative would be to demolish a portion of one side of the house to increase the setback. I don't personally view that as being reasonable in light of the variance that's being sought. The property itself is narrow for this district. This is an 80-foot lot width district. Their lot provides 70 foot. So one way to view this is, since our issue at hand is related to combination of side yard setbacks and a deficiency of, where did that get me? It's a couple of feet. I'll try not to do math on my toes, you guys know that. The deficiency of a couple of feet, 3.5 feet, even up to the 90% rule, obviously that the additional 10 foot would likely be accommodated were this a conforming conventional lot. So I do think there's a direct relation between the property condition and the variance being sought. With respect to rights possessed by other owners, at least in my opinion, I think that granting the variance will allow this owner to do something that most others are allowed to, and that is to build a conforming addition. In other words, what is being constructed complies with all of your current standards. Most people are allowed to do that, except when they are hampered with unusual circumstances, as I believe is the case in this particular instance. I did put forth a couple of suggestions that are related to that south side elevation view, which I showed you earlier, and I'll go back to. This south side elevation view, so this is what the neighbor would see, and it is essentially, it's not overwhelmingly large, but it is a pretty large wall section of a blank canvas, if you will. So I did put forth a few suggestions that the petitioner and/or board may want to discuss for consideration tonight. I think that this side of the building could probably benefit from some additional treatments. In my letter, I had suggested maybe a couple of windows, or possibly even the return and completion of the masonry base that is present on the other sides of the building. You can see that it does return at the corner, but then that's it. So those were a couple of suggestions that I had. Alternatively, or possibly even in addition to the board and/or applicant, I can't tell really well from the aerial photo. Maybe the photos will help better. Yeah, there's a couple of trees and a couple of shrubs in the area. This looks like this was hiding the old pool equipment. So I think the other idea was that there's potentially a way that maybe some additional landscaping along that south side of this proposed building addition could maybe also soften those views a little bit. Maybe not be, again, just this big blank canvas that now sits out in front of the neighbor to the south. So those were a couple of things that that I put forth to you as suggestions. They are not requirements, but I think you may want to give that some consideration and at least hear what the petitioner has to say about that as well, and kind of work our way through it. So that being said, Mr. Chair, that's all I have on this one. I am happy to take any questions that you all may have.
Any questions for Brian?
I have just a couple. I want to clarify some things. Brian, do you have the survey available to you up there?
Yeah, actually, so we have, so there's the site plan that was included in the packet. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So you can see the side of the house. I want to make sure that I have it clear. If you take the south side of the house, it's that bump out that is causing the problem. Is that correct? In other words, if that bump out wasn't there, we would meet it, and we'd just be we wouldn't be here tonight. Yes. Is that correct? And so is that 8.3, 8 feet 3 inches?
No, that's the actual length of that wall face.
Okay.
It scales to 7 feet.
Oh. No.
Setback.
The width of that bump out.
Yeah.
Is what I'm, okay.
I gotcha. Yes, this 8.3 number.
Yeah.
Represents
That wall. So
Correct.
it's not the whole wall that is causing the problem. It's just that 8.3. Okay. And again, his building, or what he proposes to build, that would be no problem if it were not for that.
That is correct.
Thank you. No, that's it.
Anybody else have questions for Brian? If not, then okay, Brian, thank you very much. If we can get John Camilleri up here, and give us your name and your address, and then you can give us your reasons why we should approve the variance, okay?
John Camilleri, 28640 Swan Island Drive, Grosio, Michigan, 48138. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I I think Brian kind of, covered it all. I don't want to repeat myself, but definitely as to the blank canvas issues, my brother lives next door to me, and I definitely don't want a upset brother or an upset sister-in-law. I would definitely put the masonry wraparound to the south end. I would definitely put the windows in, and I would definitely landscape it. So, also that fence that is still up there on the south end, that's gonna be gone too. I kinda think that's an eyesore, to have that fence that, I'd rather have an open plain view all the way across everyone's front yard. I think that's nicer. So that's gonna come out too. But definitely, I plan on making those improvements to the south side of my garage, proposed garage. Why do I believe I deserve or you should consider a variance for me? The house was built in the 40s. Before I moved there in 2007, it was improved. They did a major addition to the house. I would probably suggest that maybe in the 40s, there was maybe only 60 feet on that lot. I saw, actually looking at my survey, somehow another 10 feet got added on to that lot, and I was scratching my head going, I wonder why they did that. Well, I don't know, maybe over time, the setback requirements increased. My lot is the smallest or narrowest lot on Swan. My next door neighbor, I think, has 225 feet. Then my neighbor to the south, which is my brother, he has, I think, like 80 feet. And the neighbor to him has 85 feet. So the unique narrowness of my lot makes it much, much more difficult to improve the property. And as stated, you cannot do anything with this property unless there is a variance allowed. I'm trying to improve the property. This is not going to be one of those stick-built garages. And it seems like every time I look at my plans, like everybody else, I'm improving or I'm adding unique outside aesthetics to it. So I'd like the board to consider the unique narrowness of my property. I think under 23.5B, Section 4, I would give the board the consideration to grant me a variance. And that's pretty much it. And thank you very much.
And why don't you stay up here? We can maybe have some questions for you.
Sure.
Questions for John?
Well, the only thing just to clarify, you would have no problem doing any of the add-ons that Brian talked about. In fact, it sounded like you'd do all of them.
All of them. The south end is still my property, even though they're, south of me. It's, pride and ownership all the way around. So
You have no problem with any of those,
no,
okay?
no, those are not. I don't consider those big issues at all. I would have done it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a curiosity point, John. Why do you need another garage?
Well, common day America is my wife took over the garage, if you want to know the truth. And that's the truth. We have now, 3 cars. I can't put my cars in the driveway. I want to get the cars off the driveway and put them in the garage. There's just way too much stuff. I like to duck hunt, and we just gather too much stuff. We like to bike. As you can see, I have a little shed on the property. In between the patio furniture, the bikes, getting a car in the garage we have, it's just not enough room for us. Yeah.
So you've outgrown the garage that you have, and you want to expand.
I want to expand. You don't want to. Yeah. I want to expand, but, I looked at the pool. The pool was getting old. The pool was built in the 50s. Whoa. And it was just, the gunite was starting to blister. And I was gonna put $30,000 into the pool. The kids are 30 and 25. Nobody swims in the pool like we used to. And I just kind of said, this really doesn't make a lot of sense to put all this money into this pool. Let's do something a little bit more practical for the household, and that was what I came up with.
Any other questions for John? Okay, John, I'd like to, do we have anybody, you want to sit down? We
Sure.
can sit down there. Anybody in the audience want to address this, this variance? Do we have anybody in the audience? Okay, hearing that we have none, then I can entertain to get a motion for
All right.
variance.
I would like to make a motion that appeal number 20-001 be approved with the additions as mentioned by Brian. If you have all that down, Lori, rather than me mention them. Thank you.
Isn't that outside our purview?
No.
Ask them to do aesthetic things? No. We're here to talk about the variance,
You're also looking at review criteria under neighborhood character and impacts to neighboring properties, so I felt it was appropriate to bring up. Petitioner has acknowledged that he's willing to do it, so I think as the board is concerned about attaching those conditions, the petitioner stated he would do it.
And that is why, and John, Gary, that is why I put those in there, is because he is in agreement with them. If he were not, I would actually tend to leave them out.
Okay, so we still have the motion on the table. We had the motion from Jim, and do we have a support?
We did, yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I have one opposition. The motion carries, so the variance is approved. John, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Okay, we have, the second variance we have is, appeal is number 20-002. It's for Mr. Jeremy and Emily Shallop of 28769 South Point Road, has requested a public hearing before the Zoning Board of Appeals to install a 4-foot-high fence on a waterfront lot located at 28769 South Point Road, lot number 168 and 169, Albemarle Colony, subdivision as recorded in Wayne County Records, Township of Grosse Ile, County of Wayne, Michigan. The petitioners, Jeremy and Emily Shallop, are they here? Are
One of them's come up.
Yes, we're here.
are you Emily? Okay. Can you come up here and introduce yourself?
Doing, I'm Jeremy.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Emily Shallop.
Emily, okay, so give us your names and your address.
I'm Emily Shallop,
Jeremy Shallop.
and we live at 28769 South Point Road.
Okay, thank you. Now, what we're gonna do is, you heard the previous variance we had, we're gonna have Brian come up and give us an overview, and then after he gives us the overview, then you'll have your opportunity to come up and give us your reason why we should consider the variance, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Brian.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. 1 minute for technical adjustments. And away we go. Second case tonight, property at 28769 South Point Road. Is this property right here on the aerial photo. It is essentially at the intersection of, if you want to look at it, I think it's technically Albemarle and South Point, but it's basically most of the frontage is on South Point, but Albemarle, Chatham, and South Point all kind of connect in this radial pattern. And it is the property right in here adjacent to the vacant lot next door. So this is the subject site right there. Site and neighborhood are zoned R1B, single-family residential. The request before you this evening, I think after looking at some of the photos and driving by the site, I want to alter to a degree what I viewed as the variances, but let me explain that as part of this whole presentation. So I think really the only thing that the petitioner is looking for is fencing in a waterfront yard. I wrote it up as street front because if you look at the plan they submitted, it does show fencing extending into the street front yard as well. So before I had a chance to really get into the pictures, the angles they were taken from, and driving by the circle real quickly. So I don't necessarily think that they need a variance for street front unless that's something they're looking to add. But let me put that out there based on what's been done to date. Not based on their drawing, no. I'll let them speak to it, but their drawing does not indicate that there was a fence in the street front yard. So,
Not the street.
okay.
We're talking about.
Yep, guys, so I'm gonna go, and then you're gonna get your chance, okay? Yep. So, property previously contained chain link fencing in the waterfront yard, as well as one of the side yards, essentially down the two side lot lines of the house. And I don't know the exact timing on this, it was relatively recently. 4-foot tall vinyl privacy fencing was installed without a permit, without necessary approvals from the township. So in essence, it replaced the chain link fencing that was there, but obviously now it's much, much more visible. And they did so without any of the necessary approvals. As I noted, the plan also shows extension of the fencing into the street front yard, but I think we've got that clarified. If we don't, we'll make sure when the petitioner comes up that we do get that clarified. So this is the plan they submitted, with red being the previously existing, or excuse me, is the blue previous. See, you guys, your color schemes get me all confused. So the blue is the previous, okay. I got you. All right, fair enough. So that was my misinterpretation. So in essence, so the blue is the previously existing chain link fence. You can see there was a portion of it. So actually, they've corrected the portion that was in the street front yard. A portion that was in the side yard is allowable fencing. But then the real issue here are these two stretches of fencing that are in the waterfront yard along each side lot line. Here are some photos, again, courtesy Commissioner Board Member Schweikert. Thank you again for the photos. So this is a look at the corner of the fence. So here's the driveway. And this is where I mistakenly viewed the plan to show sort of an extension into the street front. So that's their driveway towards the side-loaded garage. This is the fencing that was installed. This is a view inside the property, or kind of over the fence. This is the side. That would be looking north, I believe. And then this would be the side along the opposite side lot line, which I believe is to the south. So those are a couple of really good looks at the fencing that was installed. We have a couple different sections of ordinance that apply here, two of which are tied to the zoning ordinance in terms of your waterfront provisions. The only form of fencing that is allowable in a waterfront yard is when it is tied to a below-ground pool. And even then, there are very strict parameters by which you can have that fencing. You cannot enclose your entire waterfront yard. In fact, the fencing cannot be more than 10 feet away from the edge of the pool. So the idea is that you keep the pool kind of tight to the house and you keep the fencing kind of tight to the pool so that you don't have these big, large expanses of waterfront yard that are enclosed by fences. So that's one aspect. And then the street front at this point doesn't apply anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and just skip over that. So really the only variance that's before you is to permit waterfront yard fencing. That's really what we're here to deal with. So as you've seen from the photos, and I have no doubt that most or all of you were able to visit the site, the fencing has already been installed. It was done so without zoning approval and without a fence permit, which really kind of complicates this case because it's unfortunate. I think there may have been some options that probably don't exist now, which is too bad. So when that chain link fencing was removed, any non-conforming rights that the owner had to that chain link fencing are gone. So they no longer have non-conforming rights to fencing in a waterfront yard because it was removed. That's per Article 18 of the zoning ordinance. Again, 23.5B provides your review standards. And my summary of those review standards, I do not see any apparent practical difficulties that apply in this particular situation. As I just mentioned, I wish the applicant had come in and talked to the township before they removed the chain link fence and before they installed the vinyl privacy fencing. I think there probably would have been some less impactful alternatives that could have been discussed. Not all of them may have been permitted. There still may have been some need for ZBA approval, but I think that there probably were better options than what they've installed. That's my opinion. In terms of the spirit of the ordinance, I do not believe that granting of the variance would be upholding the spirit and intent of the ordinance. You have a number of ordinances that are intended to protect waterfronts and waterfront sightlines and views. I believe the fence that was installed is completely contrary to the spirit of that particular ordinance. I don't see anything unique or unusual about the property that would support the variance being sought. I did mention earlier, it is the intersection of the roadway is a little bit unusual at the corner here. That being said, the property meets or exceeds all of the applicable dimensional standards, and you can see once you kind of carve away just that little bit of the Albemarle frontage, it's actually a pretty rectangular lot. So it's not unusually sized, it's not unusually shaped, nothing that we could use to hang our hat on in terms of a variance request. Other property owners in the district do not generally have rights to fencing in a waterfront yard. As I mentioned, the only instance where you're allowed such fencing is if there's a pool, and even then, there are very strict parameters to how you can do that. In my opinion, the location, waterfront yard, design of the fencing, white vinyl privacy fencing, I think that absolutely has the potential to impact the adjacent property owners. I think there's no doubt about that in terms of the views and sight lines and what they're looking at. I did identify, and I think I noted more detail in my letter, there are some other waterfront fences in this neighborhood. If you continue further north up Chatham, I actually found 4 of them. 2 of them are around pools, which is allowed. And then the other 2 were either, I believe, cut off or they enclosed only a small portion of the yard. That is, they did not run all the way down to the seawall or the shoreline. So there are some others in there, but nothing quite like what's been presented to you this evening. So that being said, I don't really think this is in keeping with neighborhood character. I think there's definitely an issue as it relates to the orderly development standard, the impact on adjacent property standard. I think it just is unlike anything else that I've seen, at least in my tenure, my experience in the township. That being said, obviously, we're going to give the petitioner an opportunity to present their side of the case. Maybe there's something I'm missing in terms of the property itself. Maybe in terms of a practical difficulty, they're able to provide you with something. I wasn't able to take anything out of what was submitted that I could spin into a practical difficulty or a unique circumstance. So happy to take any questions.
One small correction, that's Frenchman's Creek, not the Detroit River, it's not a canal.
Blame Google. Blame Google.
If you look at the township map, it's pretty clear.
Just a joke. I'll leave this one up.
Still a waterfront lot, right?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one of the problems for sure. No, because we certainly would not have allowed vinyl as a replacement for a chain link. They have some opportunity, they had some opportunity to maintain and repair the existing fence, but I would not suggest that swapping out chain link for vinyl privacy would be within those parameters. No.
It's already there.
Correct,
They have to take it down, huh?
correct.
Understand, now that shed that's there, that wouldn't be allowed on waterfront property either, but it's
That's
probably been there for 1,600 years.
It's probably been there for quite a while, would be my guess. You can see it on the upper left portion of the screen here.
Yep, okay.
Okay, any other questions for Brian?
Yeah, I have a question, because I assume we're gonna get into the, visibility triangle or whatever we call that, viewing triangle.
That applies to landscaping.
Well, the house that's going in to the north on the Wonderwell property, do we have any clue as to how big that house is?
Not at this time. I mean, I haven't reviewed any plans for it.
The foundation's in there.
Brian, how did this get to the township?
I don't know if the zoning enforcement officer caught it or if it came in by neighbor complaint.
Okay.
These things are 50-50. Sometimes
Mm,
staff's
okay.
out and about and they see something. Sometimes someone in the neighborhood sees it and they call it in.
We don't know how the person.
I mean,
building-
Lori, I don't know if you have anything in the file or if you have any knowledge of it, but
We don't know how the person building the house on the Wonderwell thing, there's nothing in here about that person.
no, but the surrounding property owners would have been
Yeah,
notified
no, I
of tonight's
understand.
hearing, so.
He didn't say any, I didn't see anything, I don't know, maybe I missed it, but, okay.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, anybody within 300 feet would be
I
notified of
understand.
tonight's meeting. And the petitioner did include, I think it was at least two, there were 2 letters of neighbor support included with their submittal.
All right.
Or at least, yeah, supporting the project.
Yep.
I don't know which 2 neighbors those are, to be honest. Perhaps
Yes.
when the petitioner gets up, they can point them out. I don't know if it was the immediate neighbors or if it was someone else in the neighborhood.
yeah, okay, Brian. You know, the last appeal that we had a similar situation
What's that?
on Park Lane. There,
By the church?
Oh,
it was
yeah, yeah.
a similar situation. So at any rate, okay, so are you through, Brian?
I'm good if you are.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Brian. Okay, can we have Mr. Jeremy and Miss Emily Shallop? Am I pronouncing that correct, Shallop?
You are, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
So,
you for asking.
yeah, okay. And who are you?
Fencing.
I was the one that put up the fence.
He's with Brady
Oh,
Fencing.
well, you sit down until we call for you, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Good
Okay,
evening.
now, the idea here is for you to give us your reasons why we should accept the variance and approve the variance. So give us your best interpretation of why you need it, why you have to have it.
Okay. I just want to start off, kind of explain the background a little bit. My husband and I purchased the house about 2 years ago. We did a complete renovation on the home. When we purchased the home, there was an existing fence that ran, as you can see in the picture, which is the blue, and it did run all the way to the road. It completely enclosed our property. That fence needed major repairs. We lived with it for about a year. When we first bought the house, we were under the impression that our contractor had pulled the permit for the fence. And at that time, we were discussing our plans of what exactly, and also apologize for the miscommunication on our end. And I kind of want to get into the reasons why we think that we need to keep our fence. The major one, which we didn't touch on, is there is a retaining wall on the adjacent property. It's behind the shed. I don't know if we can go back to that picture, but there is a retaining wall there. It is at the highest point about a 4 to 5 foot drop off from our property to the adjacent property. We tried to show a picture of that in the packet that we submitted to you guys. One of our major concerns that we have is without a fence there, how are we going to keep, our future kids safe? Because obviously we bought this home to start a family as well as our 2 dogs. If that fence isn't there, there really isn't stopping anybody from going over that ledge. And that retaining wall is to remain.
Can I ask you a question about
Significant
that?
drop off. Yes,
Is
please.
that your retaining wall, or is that the house that's being built?
It is our retaining wall.
Okay. And do you know if that house that is being built has a grade elevation that's gonna come up to your backyard level, or are they gonna stay at that lower level?
So that portion is actually existing wetlands there, and he cannot fill on the retaining wall.
Okay.
According to the plans that we received, the retaining wall is to remain, and he is not able to fill there.
Okay, thanks.
I don't know. I hope that answers your
That's gonna stay
question.
the same, that elevation.
Yes, the elevation will stay the same there.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I didn't know if anyone had any other
Oh,
questions.
she has a question.
Why you'd be concerned about the drop-off in the two elevations and not be concerned about the drop-off from your yard into the water.
Oh, no, that is a major concern as well. For a short time when we had taken down the existing fence that was there, we actually had a small incident where we had one of the neighbor children that we found in our backyard with our dog. So, I mean, that's a big safety concern. Obviously, we would be held liable if anything were to happen. There are a lot of children in the neighborhood. We plan to have kids. So obviously, yes, it is a concern going into the water as well as the drop-off. That is another major concern that we have for our
Fence
property.
wouldn't solve that problem of your future children falling into the water.
No, it wouldn't solve the problem of our children falling into the water, but it obviously would hold us not liable, it would protect us from other children coming into our yard and going into the water or coming back to see our kids, our and dogs that we have there, and something happening in that, instance. And we did receive a letter from our homeowners insurance that was stating that they recommend us to have a fence due to the retaining wall drop off into the adjacent property.
Okay. So, the gist I'm getting is it's more of a safety issue, putting that fence up. That's your primary focus.
Yes, it is a major safety concern. That is one of our main concerns is, the safety.
Okay, do you have any questions for the residents? Linda?
I have one more. Is there a representative here tonight from the fencing company that put?
Yes, we do have Brady Fencing here. They are the installation company that we had.
Didn't know to pull a permit or come and see the zoning.
Oh, no, we know, and we always do. We were just.
You want to give your name and your address before you address that?
Mark Brady with Brady Fence, and then this is.
Hi, I'm Joey Brady with Brady's Fence. I'm sorry, I'm short. I'm over here.
Hello.
I take care of all the, I'm sorry, yes, I take care of all the permits and all of that, and we've always gotten a permit.
What happened then?
This one, again, when we spoke with them, and they were under the impression as well, in all honesty, we should have done more, due diligence and looked and made sure there was that permit from the project manager that they used. We didn't. It really isn't on them, that part of it. It is on us. We were in complete communication with Tony as soon as he informed us that there wasn't one. And then we just supplied everything we could, at that point, and explained why they were getting it.
Also, that too, I have a small window when we did do the work, and then when I asked about the permit, they were under the assumption the builder got it, I was okay with that, but I also said, well, just make sure you get your neighbor sign off and they agree to it, and then I'll go ahead and do it, and then I'll follow up with it later because I am so busy. This is my cousin, and I didn't follow up on that, and we should have.
What builder
That
are
was
you
the main
talking
thing.
about?
What's that?
What builder
Who?
are you talking about?
Specifically, who's,
home
They're,
builder.
they're a builder that built the
who
property.
was that?
Who was that?
No idea.
Who?
Chuck LeClaire.
Spell that?
Is he the one that did the interior renovation of your home? Okay.
Packet that we submitted.
And regardless, I'm just taking accountability. We should have looked into it. We should have done it.
No, normally
There's
we-
nothing
we
more I
would,
can
and
say
we
except
do.
we
It's
should have,
just-
we apologize, like I said, we
Yeah.
always have. We've even abided by everything to our customers before they even throw a fit with you guys in the office.
Absolutely.
This is their ordinances, this is what you have to do. We didn't. We did, like he said, we did make sure, because it is our protocol as a company, to get the adjacent neighbors' signatures approving of the said fence that's written out on the contract, which they did, from the new homeowner that bought the lot next door, I believe George Fulmer.
And the old one, too.
Correct. We usually do that because we want to try and keep everyone protected. Backfired because we didn't complete it, but they do have that as well. And I feel that based on, like, I don't know if this helps with you guys, we've discussed this, if it's okay to bring this up. I think it was Brian's review summary. There was like a part 6, 7, and 8 that if I could adjust it for them, something to do with that, that's okay. I don't know if you can pull up the review summary of this particular offense.
I'm sorry.
The factors, is that, sorry, I wasn't sure what it was called.
The review standards?
Correct.
No, the other one you said.
The review summary.
That one.
Okay, because it addressed something that he had said. I believe it was, the number 6, the location and design in regards to the adjacent neighbors. We did cover that. They okayed that. And I believe you guys went so many feet out with neighbors as well to approve as much as you could. But again, we're sorry, the permit part on us.
Now, the person who you did the installation, right? Yeah. Do you normally do installations without permits?
Never.
No.
Never.
So what happened here again?
It was basically, it was just kind of it was a quick process. I was trying to help them out, okay? Because they're my cousins and family, and this is the first time I've never even pulled a permit, to be honest with you.
So,
But basically, they were under the assumption that the builder that completely redid their home had it in their package. So I was fine with that without researching it. I said, make sure you get the neighbor sign-offs, and I will do it for you, because I only had a weekend to do this thing. Open, because we're booked out 3
were
months.
there any other permits issued on this house when you?
Contractor pulled all the permits for us.
So he had issued. There were permits issued, and there were plans looked at, and you had the fencing on the plans. So.
Oh, it might not have been. They were just
Uh-huh.
under the assumption that he
Yeah.
did that.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
why I said we
okay.
didn't do our
All
due
right.
diligence.
Yeah,
Did
I
you
didn't-
have
I
any-
didn't look into it.
For
Was there
them.
any, as we're talking about this and as this has come up, was there any discussion with the builder about this as to why it wasn't there? You were under the assumption that it was when it all happened. What does the builder say about that? No, I mean, I assume you've talked to him.
Yeah, we talked to him, was it last fall that we had talked to him about this? We originally wanted to do this the summer prior, and that's when we had discussed all of our plans, what we wanted to do. Like, we were we were going to do it at the time, but timing didn't work out for us. Obviously, money was a factor at the time, too. We had just put in a lot of money into the renovations of our home. So at the time, I was under the assumption that he had the permit. We just didn't follow through with actually doing the fence at that time, and we waited to the following spring. And so the fence was put in, like I said, the spring of 2019. And from my understanding of what Tony had told us, that it was an anonymous complaint that came in. And so that's when we had went to like our adjacent neighbors and rechecked with them, got additional signatures, just to make sure that, everyone around us was happy and didn't have any objections to, what we had done.
Okay. You have anything else that you want to address? Any other questions?
I'd like to know, it's like, a lot of people want fences, and we have to turn them down because it's not allowed on the waterfront. What's unusual about your property that doesn't set a precedent for us that we have to approve all these fences? If someone else comes in, we approve yours, someone else comes in and says, well, you approve theirs, why aren't you gonna approve mine?
I understand what you're saying, and I can see how that could cause a problem for the future, obviously for people that would like fences. I just feel like our case is unique because we did have an existing fence, which we were told was grandfathered in. We have
Yeah,
a
you
neighbor
guys
here
have
that
that.
has lived there for 40 years, and the fence has always been there. I guess I question how we would ever repair that fence if we came, I know at the time that we didn't come to the board and speak to you guys about it, but how would we ever make improvements or repair it?
I understand.
You know what I'm saying? I just
Yeah,
feel like.
no, I understand what you're saying, but we're in a quandary here,
So
because-
you basically put the new fence in for aesthetics purposes, 'cause it's a white fence, 4 foot wide, it looks good. But the old cyclone fence would have been a safety,
Yeah.
would have served the purpose for safety in itself.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right,
Yes.
all right.
Yeah,
Does anybody else have anything?
I do. John.
Want to ask?
You've talked about your safety concerns on the north side. On the
Yes.
south side, when I walk that, the grade differential is minimal.
correct.
So that issue only exists on the north side?
Correct.
I'm saying that right?
Yes.
Looking for, Brian agrees, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, yes.
Question, why didn't you just replace the chain link fence with a chain link fence?
That's a good question. I don't know if this is going to be a good answer, but we do have 2 dogs. Every time that they were outside, it was constant barking. Any movement or anything that they saw, they were barking. I will say aesthetically, I personally thought that the white vinyl fencing was more aesthetically pleasing. I thought it matched the exterior of our home. We were just trying to make improvements. So aside from, our dogs go outside, and my neighbor can contest, he's never heard them. And as well as aesthetically, I feel like it looked better.
I think that, basically, if you had a safety issue with that ledge, there are other ways that it could have been addressed without putting a 4 foot fence up. It's a privacy fence. And, I agree with, someone else said down there that, you don't see this. You could drive around Rocio waterfront, you do not see this. Okay, you won't see a privacy fence running all the way to water. It just isn't done on Rocio. And there's specific reasons for that. And whether a neighbor complains or doesn't complain, the point about the fact that we set a precedent is a very good one.
Okay.
We have to represent values of Rocio. And I have heard nothing that, of all the criteria that Brian pointed out, I hear nothing that justifies keeping that fence there.
I understand your concerns, obviously, with the ordinance, the waterfront ordinance. I just kind of want to touch on that just a little bit. We do live on Frenchman's Creek. I did include a photo in the packet. There is not much of a view. We overlook what I call Mud Island, and it's all dead brush. There is no view in our backyard. So I don't feel like I'm obstructing a view of a waterfront property. When I think of waterfront, I think of East or West River. I don't think of Frenchman's Creek.
I think that's a judgment that your neighbors need to make, not you.
Right, but I do have
We have their sign off.
the sign-offs from the neighbors, all adjacent neighbors. We actually have 3 sign-offs.
I mean, really, the major thing here is the ledge drop off. What if I'm driving with my lawnmower and, I just go off the ledge? There has to be something there to
I
block.
would suggest that if you came over to the township and you talked about that specific issue, you could have negotiated, something that would have been a whole lot more compatible with, standards of Grocio than a 4 foot privacy fence.
Yes, that's true.
And you needed to do that, and I think you still need to do that.
That's why we're here today.
And I'm sorry, yeah, it's backwards. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any other questions for the Shallops? Hearing none, okay, you can go back down, sit down, and, I will address that, yes.
Yeah, he's gonna ask
Okay, you can sit down, and then we'll get the audience to, if we have somebody in the audience that wants to address the issue, come up and to the mic and, name and address. We have any-
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't know thought you were done.
Pardon?
I'm sorry. I thought you were done and I interrupted you.
Yeah, we're through.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joey Brady again with Brady's Fence. Just summarizing this for them, I know you guys have the standards, as you said, for Grocio. The family's actually all from Grocio. We do respect that. However, the purpose of a ZBA, is for the board to maybe necessitate a change or an upgrade or something of that nature. With this situation, as it says, harmonious with the neighborhood, I feel that they extended outward to see if those neighbors in that neighborhood agreed to that. And everyone has agreed that that is acceptable to them. And if there is even maybe a remedy as well, like you said, it doesn't go all the way to the waterfront. What about just coming back some for them and then trying to figure out another way to address the drop-off? Even doing a picket, something of that nature. I just maybe not completely bulldoze the whole idea.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, one thing you recognize, now that the ZBA doesn't redesign, okay, that's something that your client basically and you would need to do, not us. We do not we sit here and redesign a fence, and we would select a picket fence as opposed to another fence.
Okay.
That's not something ZBA ever does. That's something that you've given us application, it's a yes or no. And from that, you then act however you need to act, and to get whatever it is you want, consistent with the township ordinances.
So, yeah, and just to add to that, so if in fact we were to turn this down, you need a new design, just basically you're starting over and go in, well, before there's even a resubmittal, go in to the building department, sit down with the people and see what you can work out. You may still end up back here, but with something better than what you have.
Okay.
Correctly, this is based on the,
Okay. Can we shorten this down here? Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. You're saying that we have no neighbors. There's no neighbors in the audience here that will.
there are.
Is there,
Okay.
is there
Well,
other
that's
people?
what I want. I want to get the neighbors up here and let them give us their interpretation of what they agreed to and what they see or what they don't see.
Hi, Dean, 28775 South Point Drive, Groseal. I am the neighbor immediately south of them. First thing, there's been some real erroneous statements made right now, tonight, that are not true. I've lived there since 1978. I have a vinyl fence on their south end of their property. It's been there since, you remember Dick Slade? Yeah, well, that's way back when that fence went in by permit properly, and it's been there. So they have vinyl on their south property line, and then they're told they want to keep this crappy old chain link on the north side. I get very aggravated with that. It doesn't make any sense. That house what they bought was a horrible, horrible house. I've lived there and my neighbor here for years begging the township to do something. The house literally had the roof in the garage caving in. It was horrible. Looked like it should have been downtown Detroit. And they came in, they cleaned it all up. They're polite, they asked permission, we signed agreements for the fencing, just to upgrade it over there. It's beautiful. I have another big issue with anonymous supposed complaints. I'm amazed that we're standing here talking about a short piece of fence when an entire house project is going on and none of the neighbors got a letter or anything. And there was numerous violations. And the permit that I was talked about is not correct. I checked with the state already. So there's a lot of issues, and whether you like it or not, I think this came from a personal situation. But the fact is, there was existing vinyl fence there. As far as character of Groseal, well, I would rather have vinyl fence than a dilapidated piece of crap and an old-looking, broken-down chain link fence.
Okay. The bottom line is that you're not objecting
I
to
don't
it.
object. I think it's wonderful what they did.
Okay.
I'd like to see that fence stay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Totally.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
And it is necessary.
Thank you. Do we have another resident that wants to speak? No, okay. So, no more audience participation, so we can come back to the zoning board here and see if we can get a motion in this particular variance.
Can understand, was there, we don't know anything about a previous vinyl fence. Is this mirror in the case?
What?
He says there was a vinyl fence there already forever.
Okay, but
Was it really
that
there?
is not addressing what.
I'm just
this
saying,
particular
what-
property.
Does what's on the one lot, what's?
I don't
one-
know that. I don't know.
Brian, do you know anything about it?
I do not, I interpreted what the neighbor said to say that he had a vinyl fence on his property.
I don't understand what he said. Yeah, I'm asking a question. What is he talking about?
He's talking about, not the side where the shed is, but the other side, I'm
Other
sorry,
side.
I don't know north or south.
Yeah,
That side was a white vinyl fence. That's the fence he's talking about.
it's already there.
That is already
before
there and
you-
has been there.
That's what I'm asking.
For years, it's been there, he said.
And then on that fence as well, all we did is reuse every post that we possibly could and just swap out the panels so it looks new. It's on the contract that we submitted as well. So basically, it was untouched besides, we took out the panels, used every post that was good still, and then put up new panels on that side. And then on the other side, we tried to reuse every chain link post as well,
Yeah.
and then I put them over that.
So if we vote against this variance, they're gonna have to take down a fence that was there forever? Part of it. I don't know.
They already took the fence down.
No, we didn't.
The new fence.
Not on the north side.
No,
but-
not on the north
No,
side.
Brian, they're saying that fence was
As
there.
you can see in the,
Just the one side is new. Is that correct?
Well, somebody,
Did you repair, maintain it within the confines of the?
somebody
ordinance?
tell us what the facts
The
are.
drawing shows that both sides of your fence are new. That's what the drawing shows.
The south side is just repaired. The north side is what we did, is we took the chain link down, still reused every post that was there, the posts I just put over top of them.
But I'm
And then
seeing,
put the
I'm
vinyl.
seeing
So
on this
So
drawing,
one
I'm
side,
seeing,
yes, was just repaired, the
seeing
south
on this
side.
drawing here, it shows, install a new 4-foot-5 high vinyl fence. That's what it shows here.
Yeah,
Is there a contract page?
On the south side, that's new.
Yeah, is there,
It says it says you take down the cyclone fence and put up a new 4-foot-5. So
Just
both
on the
sides
one
have
side.
new Vinyl, both sides have new vinyl fencing.
correct,
well, with reused of the old posts.
correct. And the one
Oh.
side, when we bought the house, if you're looking at the house, the right side was vinyl,
So-
the left side was cyclone.
okay, so it
No,
is a
one
new
was
fence.
vinyl.
then.
Not
It's not
matched.
like he's saying that the fence was there and you
The
just
fence
used
was
it.
there for 30 years.
It's a new vinyl fence, you just used the post.
I just took the panels off and
Oh,
put new
okay.
panels on.
I think panel, has the board heard enough?
Yeah.
No.
No?
I'm having trouble reading this. I should write my reading glasses.
Yeah, I couldn't read the darn thing.
Does this say this fence was 60 inches high or 6 feet high? What am I missing here? In blue,
5 foot high, 62 inches long.
so it was 5 foot high, so they've actually lowered it to 4 feet?
Yeah, we
Yes.
5 feet high, 62 feet.
Yes,
Yeah, 60 foot.
All right, but it was
It
5,
says 60 inches.
Yes.
Lowered it.
so they lowered it to 4 feet.
Correct.
So it was 5 feet, now it's lowered to 4 feet?
Because the old one had lattice or something.
Yeah, I believe you. I'm just trying to read this.
But it was part of the property that we're talking about. It was part of the property that we're talking about,
The north side.
yes,
Yeah,
the
that-
north side.
That
Yeah,
would- no,
the
this
north
is-
side, so that's, okay, fine, thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's go back to, see if we can get a motion. Anybody want to entertain, put a motion on the, Linda?
I just wanted to say one more thing. Defend Groseal. There are subdivisions in Ann Arbor and northern Oakland County that do not allow fences at all, anywhere,
Yeah.
because it's deemed undesirable.
Yeah.
And I don't think Groseal's being unreasonable. That's all I wanted to say.
Right.
Okay, again, can we entertain a motion? Get somebody to put a motion on the table?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny Appeal 20002 for failure to meet any of the criteria associated with the variance.
You have support?
I unfortunately, I support, I think John's correct. I feel bad about this. You obviously put a lot of work into this house, and it looks great, but it just wasn't done right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I have the same feeling that the proper direction wasn't given to the occupants, but
Yeah.
be that it may, I think the idea that the variance is very, very solid here, and the ordinance is very solid, and I just don't see any reason why we should approve the variance. That's my 2 cents worth.
Can I say one more thing before you guys finish? Do you guys have pictures of the old fences before we continue on?
We're at the table.
Because there's a huge
Yeah,
confusion. here.
okay, John, hold on. Okay, that has nothing to do with it right now. So we wanna finish the project here, so the voting here. So you wanna sit down?
Why, I can't speak?
What?
Can't speak about it?
Go ahead, tell us very succinctly
Well, I mean-
what you're saying.
If we're gonna get denied over obstruction of view, I mean, if you clearly look at the pictures, there's a giant shed on the left with a big tree, and there's 6 trees on the right with a giant type garage. So there's no view as there is anyway with the fence totally gone. What's that?
There are no trees on the north.
Yes, there is. There's a big, it's right on my little print, and there's pictures of it.
Under the new construction, didn't you take those trees out?
Well, if you took the one out on the wetland, it's not allowed. So
Wetland, but the
there,
tree.
there's a variance from his property to the adjacent property of a 10-foot, I believe, variance that can't
See,
not
we're
be
getting
touched.
we're getting off message here. We wanna,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
let's go back to the vote. Get back to the motion here. So we got a motion to deny, and we got a support. Jim,
We had a support.
okay, given that, all in favor for the motion?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Hearing no opposition, the variance is denied. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a point to Brian? In going around looking at the properties, I did not see that we required the posting out front. So that neighbors know.
So real quickly, so that is been an emphasis of staff. It is in the application materials now to post that notice. Whether that notice was posted or not, the statutory requirements were met with notices being mailed and posted in the paper 15 days before the meeting.
Well, I would just like to encourage staff to follow up and look and see.
We are working on it. We have a new protocol in place that we're, between Derek, Lori, and Tony and I, we're working on to make sure that gets done.
Thank you.
Okay, Lori, do you have all, are you all set?
Jim? Yeah. Gentleman speaking, address him.
I thought we heard everybody in the audience. You,
Ended the case, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Move on.
Not gonna continue.
okay, we're
the-
gonna move on. Thank you. Okay, we have, on the agenda, we have, the item number 6, which is selecting officers for the coming year. Is that correct, Jim?
That is correct.
First thing is to nominate the chairman, and I want to say that if for myself, if I've been chairman now for I don't know about 10 years, maybe, I don't know how long, but if somebody else wants to take over the opportunity to be the chair,
Please, he's going, say please.
I mean, it's,
Oh, that's funny.
so, if there's somebody that wants to do that, please speak up.
Not hearing any, I'd like to make a motion to have Jim as chair.
Second. Bad luck, Jim.
Okay. So, we have a, go. Yeah,
No.
okay. We have the nominee out, sitting here right now, so, do we have we have the motion, we have the support, all in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
opposed? I'm not gonna oppose that. Okay, so the,
Yeah.
I am now still the chairman.
I just say one thing. But who's liable though now if something happens, if somebody falls off that ledge? Or a kid or...
Sir, we are not your
Certainly not the
lawyers.
ZBA.
We should, no one
This
should
is
be
not
giving
the
any
time.
legal advice.
This is,
No,
this is
that's-
not
No, we are not.
That is,
been talked to the time.
sir, that's no place for that here, so we can't answer that.
I guess, okay, I'm just
We
trying to
can't
figure out
answer
what I
that.
can do, obviously, to prevent, I'm not blaming you in any way, I don't want you to take it the wrong way, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to, it's a safety concern for me.
Well, and I would encourage you to come in to the building department and talk to them to see what can be worked out here.
Thank you, I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Okay, the next thing is we have the vice chair,
Who is it now?
it's Gary.
It's Gary. And, yeah, well, are you making the motion?
Yeah.
I'll support that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition. Gary is the new, the next thing is the
Secretary?
secretary.
I renominate, Chuck.
It is me.
Nominate Chuck.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chuck, you are the continuing secretary. Congratulations. Okay.
Did we have a
Is that,
traveling?
have we did our deal?
Well,
due diligence?
you've done your due diligence. I can now go to my annual meeting and have names.
The next thing on the agenda is we have any comments, any?
Just, yeah,
Come back and be a member again?
no, not quite. Yeah, Jackie Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she had to, that's why she had to leave, because she couldn't attend the meetings. She doesn't get to come back. If there's an opening, she could put in for one. Yeah, she could do that, but
Now, we do have Robert Harrison. Lori, what, was Robert, did he call in or what?
he did call in. We didn't need him tonight, so that's why he isn't here. Yes, he did call in. Oh, yeah, he's the alternate.
Okay, fine. Okay, so any more comments? We have any public comment? Hearing none. Lori, do we have another?
Oh, what do? Oh, okay.
We have one for March? Okay. Is it a good one?
That's a good one.
Okay. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
So, support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We adjourn the meeting. Thank you.